So in this Advent video I'm going to be talking about float carts. So we all know they have really useful properties for transferring items in tight spaces, but they have another thing that's really useful and it's becoming increasingly useful in small doors, and that is the fact that when you push them, they'll all go up, meaning they can activate a pressure plate or a tripwire or something, but then since they're not being supported, they'll fall straight back down again. And that is pretty useful, so you can see here. Yep. But they're a little limited because they're quite small entities, minecarts. Obviously you could put in put a mob into them, but then you have issues of not being able to build them on servers easily, and the mobs will suffocate, and also that minecarts collide with other minecarts. So in a small space it's best to use something else where you can. So wouldn't it be great if we could float an armor stand? And thanks to Bonopo we can do that. So this is a floating armor stand. It does exactly what you might expect. So it will push up and then fall back down. Creating one of these is quite difficult, but there is a method. So since we can't float armor stands simply like we can in minecarts, where we just zero ticket, what we're going to do is we're going to just float a minecart, and then we're going to use that float, stack things on top of it to sort of transfer the float to a position where the armor stand can take advantage of it. That probably doesn't make much sense, but it will in a minute. So firstly, a big issue, well, we're going to use boats. A big issue is that boats collide with other boats and move them. However, he looked into it and found that boats don't collide with other things when they have mobs inside them. So we're going to be using just some random mob to place it. Although, just so you know, if you want one of these on Synergy where you can't use a mob, you can actually just do it without the mob. So on there it says something weird about the collision on paper or whatever, and it just works. But yeah, so firstly we need just a regular minecart with something in it. I'm just going to use some pigment because why not? So we're just going to float this like so. So now if we take the coordinate, that will be floated, as you can see, and then we're just going to push some boats into it. So I have no idea really how you're supposed to go about putting entities and mobs, but we're just going to push them around. So then when we push that into that, you see it will be able to stay next to it, which is very useful. And then we can do it again. Oops. And again. How do you do this? Come on. There we go. Yep, and one more time. Oops. Not quite what I was going for. It's probably a much better way of doing this, but I'm hardly an expert. Great. And then what we can do is we can get our armor stand and push this into the boat. That's why we're using boats, because they have proper collision, so the armor stand will collide with it and not push no further. And then when we place a piston here, we can see it'll come up and then down. It's a little bit glitchy, so we just remove some of these other things getting in the way. We've successfully transferred the float of the minecart onto the armor stand. So we did that just by so we float the minecart and then push enough boats into it so that we can transfer that float onto the armor stand. So yeah, hopefully that will get some use out of, some of you will get some use out of that, and I'll see you in day 4.